Hi YouTube. Today I want to talk a bit about NE indecision. I think it's very common for lots of people who struggle with indecision, especially in their formative years, adolescence, early 20s, mid 20s, sometimes later than that. Uh, when people are supposed to make a lot of big decisions, generally, you choose a career, you choose a school, you choose a career, you choose a long-term partner. That's kind of like there's that traditional process. It's very, that happens during this time. Um, I think a lot of uh, any. I'll just introduce puppy. My mom got a new puppy, super cute. Uh, any indecision comes from, of course, the function's ability to not see things as they are, but how they could be. You're focused on possibilities. And, when you're so focused on possibilities, it seems like anything is possible. And therefore, how do you narrow down on one reality? How do you choose one reality and seek it out with your full attention? It can be hard. Something I've definitely struggled with. I've seen other NE users in my life, as well as other types struggle with this. But it's common. Anyway, so one thing I've kind of been thinking about is if extroverted intuition is such a creative function and that it can see the possibilities, it's creative, it creates possibilities, then in a sense we shouldn't fear commitment, whether it be to a job or a relationship or something like that, because why not? That process of seeing creative possibilities should work within any kind of constraints. It doesn't have to be free range. And what I'm kind of realizing is that it's better to be committed to something. Like, I know it's going to be obvious for a lot of people, but for me at least, and I'm sure for a lot of other people, it's not obvious. You feel like you might refrain from making commitments because they feel claustrophobic. But what I'm thinking is, if we look at the function as being creative, it can work within constraints, and it should be able to make anything we choose work, right? So you're not sure about a career, right? So what do you could sit back and wonder about all the possible different routes you can take, career routes you can take, or you can focus on one and you can narrow in your possibility making function to make that career work for you. Because within any constraint, there's going to be a little wiggle room, right? So whereas, you could be, using your function to wiggle within, an endless area of possibility, it gets sloppy. So if you narrow it down, you have that space to move around within your constraint. And this is a bit of an abstract way of explaining this, but I think, probably any users are listening to this. But yeah, so I just think this is a good reminder. If you're indecisive because you see too many possibilities, then why not just choose something and then narrow that possibility making function within it to make anything work for you. It's kind of vague, but I think I'm getting my point across here. And it reminds me of The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is like a great metaphor that it's one of the things a lot of people pull away from that book. It's her image of the fig tree, and she sees herself as the tree, and there's all these different fruits that are coming from the tree, and one is being a brilliant professor of literature in her case, or being having a lovely home life, being a housewife, or being a secluded writer is another option. And she's for anyone who's read that book, in that book she's struggling with depression and stuff because she can't decide what she wants to do with her life, and she feels indecisive and overwhelmed by choosing the possibilities. And you know, a lot of people say her is an INFP, and I think she probably was, just from reading that novel, and a few other things I read. But yeah, the thing is with the metaphor is if you don't choose any of it, then all of the figs will, you know, they'll become too ripe and they will fall to the ground, and you won't have any of it. So it's exactly what I'm talking about here. Just a reminder to myself and others that you need to actually make the decision, or you're going to lose all the possibilities. So use your function to work within your decision. It pays to be creative. It pays to see possibilities within any kind of narrow framework, as long as you're not choosing something that's totally, you know, that's far-fetched from your values of who you actually are. But in most cases, people are capable of doing, you know, many things in their life. You're capable of being with many different people and fulfilling, you know, romantic relations, or being good at many different careers. The reason why you see so many possibilities isn't because, you know, because not everyone has that calling for that one thing. And personally, I don't believe there is, you know, one job or one, you know, person, like romantic, you know, soulmate or something for anybody. There are so many different routes you can take, and so the only wrong answer is to not choose any of them. Yeah, just a reminder about that. NE, an indecision. All right, thanks for listening. Bye. So cute.